Did you just start a new diet strategy and feel, oh my God, so much better? Well, it might not be the new diet that you're eating itself. It might be fixing shortcomings of what you ate before you started the diet. We're gonna break down why each of these mainstream popular diets might all of a sudden make you feel so much better. What's going on, family? It's Marv, OneRepAtATime.net. Lab coat is back out. That's right, there's another lab coat sighting. Now, it's been a long time since I busted this out. In the past, whenever I wore this, we were gonna break down some hardcore fitness science and just kind of simplify it, explain what it meant. Now, today is not really a lot of hardcore science. However, if the thumbnail of a decent looking chap wearing a lab coat got you to click on this video, I invite you to stick around. So like that intro said, we're going to go over, in my personal experience, why you feel better after starting a new diet. Now, personally, I hate the word diet because by definition, at some point, you're gonna be off of a diet, and then what do you do? So when we use the word diet at one rep at a time, we're talking about your eating strategies 365 days a year, because the research is really shitty when it comes to the success of a diet and being able to maintain weight loss long term. But we're not here today to discuss that. We're here to discuss why people will switch to a mainstream popular diet or eating strategy, and oh my God, all of a sudden they feel so much better. They've seen the light. Oh, praise the Lord. I'm gonna eat this way for the rest of my life, and you have to eat this way because it works for me. It has to work for you, and all of that. And that's when dogma starts. We start to become so dogmatic of we do this eating strategy switch or diet switch, feel amazingly better, and we think this is the end all be all. This is the way I'm gonna eat for the rest of my life. This is the best way, period, end of story. And typically, there's a reason why you feel better all of a sudden. And today, we are going to cover that. So on the board are multiple various mainstream diets or eating strategies. We're gonna tackle them one by one and hopefully shed some light, crack some eggs of wisdom or knowledge when it comes to nutrition and what you could pull from each of these and why you might feel better. So it's not necessarily the new diet itself. It's probably why you feel better is it's fixing something with how you were eating prior to starting this new diet. So what do I mean? Let's just go, we're gonna go from the left and work our way to the right on this board. So first off is paleo. What happens when somebody switches to a paleo-based diet, which is eating like our ancestors ate? So it's basically meat, nuts, fruits, veg, no processed carbohydrates, no grains, even though they just, and no bread, even though they recently found that paleo ancestors probably were eating bread, so wah, wah. But anyways, it's essentially big in CrossFit and it's eating what our ancestors ate like. Okay, so no processed foods, no dairy, none of that. Here is why paleo might work. If you're somebody who eats a typical American or Western society diet, which is a lot of processed food and crap, if you all of a sudden switch to high quality foods found in the paleo diet, you're gonna get better nutrition, better micronutrient content, you're gonna get fewer insulin spikes or sugar crashes. That's gonna make you feel amazingly better. So I love paleo. I love the quality aspect of paleo. I think there's some shortcomings with paleo, which we've talked about. And I'm gonna include the link down below to our episode of One Rep at a Time Radio podcast, going over the pros and cons of various popular diets. So everything on this board, we did the pros and cons for. But paleo, why you feel better again? All of a sudden you're eating quality foods, you're not eating processed crap. That's why you feel like you've seen the light. On a caveat, just real quickly, for somebody who's a CrossFitter, do not do paleo long term. I promise you that. Nobody at the CrossFit Games eats pure paleo. You have to have carbohydrates for CrossFit based on the type of exercise that it is. I can't tell you how many people I work with who come to me being former CrossFitters or doing CrossFit. What do you eat? I follow a paleo diet. Around the 10 to 11 month mark, they hit a wall. They feel like shit. Their hormones take a dive. Their performance take a dive. They're eating paleo. So, got off on a little bit of a tangent. Let's bring it back in. You're eating quality foods, you're not eating processed crap. That's why paleo feels better. Next up, we're going to the elimination diet. I have Whole30 or the carnivore diet, which is really trendy right now, which you've already done our own take on carnivore. So any type of elimination diet, Whole30 is really popular. I've worked with people who've done that. Carnivore diet's really, really popular right now. It's really trendy. Okay, so elimination diets. Why do you all of a sudden feel better? It's kind of obvious, right? You are all of a sudden avoiding foods that you have an allergy to. And they could be really rare, random foods. People can have allergies to avocados. People can have allergies to bananas. People can have allergies to gluten, to grains, to dairy, whatever, okay? So if you go on an elimination diet, no matter what form that may take, if you remove irritants, things that were upsetting your gut, okay? If you are somebody with really bad gut health issues and you've lost the ability to process histamine quickly, if you eliminate a seemingly healthy food like spinach, if you quit eating spinach 5 times a day, you're gonna feel better because now you're not pounding your body with histamine. Oh my goodness, it's not the elimination diet itself, it's the fact that you removed a common allergen. So I like elimination diets. I think they're a wonderful tool to identify what foods agree with you and what foods don't. Just because a food worked with you in the past does not mean that's gonna work for you now. You know, that's why a lot of people all of a sudden they can no longer process dairy like they used to, or they can no longer process gluten like they used to, or what, you know, add in whatever you want. Over time, we could build up, you know, foods that we constantly eat, the odds of us building a food intolerance to increase the more often we eat them, specifically if you have gut health issues. So elimination diets work because they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I wouldn't recommend staying on an elimination diet long-term. Why? Because it is so restrictive. It's just, I feel like that could set up a bad relationship with food. So you do the elimination period for a period of time. I would recommend at least 4 weeks minimum. And then you're gonna slowly reintroduce foods. If you get a bad reaction, we know that that food is no longer on the table for you. So that could be any type of elimination diet. Whole30, carnivore, whatever else you wanna add in there. So I love elimination diets. Why do you feel better? You're not eating the stuff that's setting off a bad chain reaction in your body. Next up, we have fasting. So fasting, intermittent fasting is all the rage right now. It is really trendy, just like the carnivore diet. So why does fasting make you feel so much better all of a sudden? Probably 2 things. First and foremost, you're not pounding your body with food all of the time. While food is necessary for life, there is a little bit of stress that goes into the body when you have to digest food. So think of it this way, our ancestors did not develop eating 5 meals a day, every day on clockwork. So what fasting does is it's simplified, but it's almost like we have this other operating system, a fasting system that we never use because in the modern world, if you ever tell anybody, oh, I'm fasting today, they're gonna look like you have the plague and something's morally wrong with you. So by giving your body a break from processing food, you're going to see some awesome benefits. Now, a lot of people are big on short fasts every day, so like a 16 to 18 hour fast or 20-hour fast every single day. I know I'm getting off on a tangent again, but I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a fan of periodically throwing it in, intermittently. Intermittent is the key word. An actual full fasting is more beneficial with the health benefits long-term than just short everyday fast, because again, if you don't change the stimulus you're giving your body, it's going to adapt. So if you're somebody who fasts 16 to 20 hours, 7 days a week, I guarantee you it's not nearly as effective as it used to be because your body has adapted. Fasting is a great way to change things up, throw a curveball in there. Another reason why I think fasting helps is because of its great effects on gut health, as well as resetting your insulin sensitivity. So if your blood sugar is constantly rising, okay, you're not processing carbohydrates well, all of a sudden you start implementing fasting, which for most folks, it does wonders for your blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, you're gonna feel better. So you're giving your body a break, number one, and you're resetting, insulin sensitivity, how you process carbohydrates, your blood sugar, as well as giving your body a chance to heal itself, to heal its gut. And it's pretty crazy once you get, though, in the 20 to 22 to 24 hour fasted mark. It's like the world's best cup of coffee. The adrenaline that you have naturally is like laser focused. But I would caution you to do fasting all the time. Next up, keto. Keto. It's popular again. Why? Because supplement companies finally figured out how to create ketone supplements. So what happens when you go to keto, all of a sudden you feel amazingly better? Odds are there's 2 things. One, you weren't eating enough fat. So a lot of folks unfortunately still follow the no fat, fat-free nonsense craze that was pushed on us a couple decades ago. When you go to keto, your fats dramatically increase. Oh my God, you feel better. You probably weren't eating enough fat to begin with. I love keto. I've put folks on keto. I've done keto. I think it is a tool. There's nothing magical about it. Calories still matter. But when you go keto and you feel amazingly better, odds are you weren't eating enough fat, or number two, your body just did not process carbohydrates well. So similar to fasting, your blood sugar was all out of whack, your insulin sensitivity is out of whack. So by removing that and giving yourself, I guess technically a cleaner energy source in the form of ketones, which happens when you go to a ketogenic eating strategy, your body now runs off of ketones, you're gonna feel better. So going back and editing this, I didn't like how I explained that right there. So let me try this again. So when you're on keto, it gives you super stable blood sugar levels because you're not relying on carbohydrates. Okay, your blood sugar is gonna be nice and steady. So that's why people feel so great. They don't have those massive sugar swings, right? The big, eat a bunch of carbs. If you don't process carbs very well, your insulin goes through the roof, the big crash, okay, blood sugar drops, you feel hungry, you feel lethargic, you hit that wall at 2 or 3. When you go keto, you typically, the cognitive benefits are amazing because your blood sugar is stable because we're not relying on carbohydrate, we're relying on fat or our own body fat sources of fat for creating those ketones. That's why it is so big in the Silicon Valley and computer programming world, is because super steady blood sugar levels mean for amazing cognitive boost and benefits and staying stable. So that is why keto makes people feel so damn well. They no longer have those sugar crashes. If you go keto, you feel amazingly better. Probably need to up your fat intake. We're gonna go vegan or vegetarian, whatever you wanna throw in there. What happens when you go vegan or vegetarian? You feel amazingly better. It's not like the magic of plant food and plant power and all that good stuff. While it's very important, odds are you probably weren't eating enough vegetables and fruit to begin with. So you're eating, highly processed foods, just like paleo. You weren't getting enough micronutrients. So by going to a plant-based diet and all of a sudden you feel amazingly better, it's not that, oh my God, you have to eat plant-based for the rest of your life. It's you were probably short, like most folks, on vegetables and fruits, short on fiber, short on micronutrients. It's super common these days. The majority of Americans do not eat enough fiber on a daily basis. You want 14 grams for every 1,000 calories consumed on average. So it's not the power of plants that's making you feel so better. It's that you're finally getting the nutrition you need. Now, if you're someone who is going vegan or vegetarian for moral reasons, you feel like it's a spiritual path for you because you feel it's wrong to kill animals, then by all means stick with it. But don't fall for the damn vegan propaganda. It's ridiculous. I get a lot of hate stuff on here. I probably will for this. Okay, you probably just weren't eating enough vegetables and fruit, period. And by fruit, I typically want people to eat just berries. They're low glycemic, meaning they don't impact your blood sugar very well. They have a good dose of fiber and a lot of antioxidants. I am a fan of bananas for the potassium intake, but bananas and berries, that's typically what I recommend people to eat for fruit. I'm not a big fan of other types of fruit. So you go vegan, vegetarian, whatever the hell you're going to throw in there. You feel better. You weren't eating enough vegetables to begin with. Last but not least, at least for this list, is carb cycling, or just adjusting your carbohydrates up or down. I've had experience of folks doing both, feeling better. So carb cycling, if you do it traditionally, is you have high days, low days, and moderate days, or you go high day, low day. So why do you feel better if you start to undulate your carbohydrates? So you have a high day and a low day. You were probably eating too many carbohydrates to begin with. You were losing insulin sensitivity, so that's typically when people go carb cycling, they're actually reducing their total weekly carbohydrate intake. If you have to increase your carbs and you feel better, odds are you were not eating enough of a fuel source. So what I mean by that is, look, protein we have to have or we die. Period, end of story. But protein is not a good fuel source. Typically, it's carbohydrate first and foremost, or fats, like a ketogenic eating strategy, is your fuel source. Protein, yes, it can be a fuel source, but it is not ideal. So somebody who increases their carbohydrate, their quality carbohydrates, we're not talking about crap. Okay, we're talking about single ingredient, smart food choices. which is what we preach here at One Rep at a Time. I don't like clean eating versus junk food. I like smart or needs to be smarter or just smarter general. If you increase your carbohydrates of smart carbohydrates, you probably are just not eating enough fat or carbohydrate to begin with to give yourself a fuel source. Now, typically though, it is super rare I have to have somebody actually increase their carbohydrates. It's happened maybe once since I've been doing this for well over a decade. But typically if somebody starts to do carb cycle, they undulate their carbohydrates, they start to feel better. There's nothing magical with carb cycling, just like there's nothing magical with keto. But if you are not constantly pounding carbohydrates, you're gonna, reset your insulin sensitivity, reset your blood sugar. You're gonna process carbohydrates better. You get a nice boost of energy of the high carb days, and the low carb days might be a little challenging. But it's also the mental, release too, because we can't forget how much the mental effect matters when it comes to nutrition. Knowing, okay, today is my low carbohydrate day, tomorrow's my high carbohydrate day, so I have something to look forward to. Okay, I'm not going to underestimate the power of a placebo. But carb cycling is not one where it's like, oh my God, I feel different. It's typically I perform different and I have something to look forward to. But that was how carb cycling would make you feel better. So there you have it. It's not necessarily the new diet is the end all be all. It's what it is doing versus what you were doing beforehand. So we could learn and pick and choose from all of these, right? So from paleo, we could pick up eating quality single ingredient foods. From elimination diets, can't take much from the carnivore other than it's an extreme elimination diet. But what you can take from elimination diet is identifying foods that don't agree with you. If you're suspicious of a certain food or a common food allergen is out there, remove it for a period of time, implement it back. If you start to feel like crap, you start to have those side effects again, the GI distress, really bad acne, headaches, migraines, poor performance, joint swelling, all of that stuff, nausea, indigestion, diarrhea, upset stomach. No, this is not a Pepto-Bismol commercial. That's what you can pick from elimination diets is go through common food allergens or foods that you eat all the time, take them out for a period of time. If you feel better once you take them out, great. If you feel fine when you implement them back in, keep eating them. But if they bring you issues, it's probably a sign you need to back off from them. From fasting is, I forgot to say too, if you're someone with a former eating disorder, do not fast, okay? They've done studies and papers that starting to fast, so long as you don't have an eating disorder in your past, will not create an eating disorder, but it is a slippery slope, so we need to do so cautiously. If you ever had anorexia in your past, do not fast. If you ever had bulimia in your past, I would be very, very, very cautious. But what you can learn from fasting is you're not going to die if you go 6 hours without food. It might be a good thing to throw in every once in a while. Intermittent is the key word. With keto, do not shun fat, do not shun saturated fat, do not shun cholesterol. We need fat, we need saturated fat, we need cholesterol, okay? Now, with that said, the only fat you want to avoid is your trans fats, but fat is not the devil, we need fat. With vegan or vegetarian, eat some damn vegetables, eat some damn berries, okay? Personally, at One Rep at a Time, when it comes to our One Rep at a Time nutrition hierarchy, which is our ebook that we wrote, and then how we train or teach people nutrition when they hire us for nutrition programming, you have a fiber source at every single meal. So it's a fruit or a vegetable every single meal. Trust me, spinach goes well with eggs. Broccoli goes well with eggs. Bell pepper and mushroom go well with eggs. So every time you eat, you need to have some sort of a fiber source. And then carb cycling is just control your carbohydrate intake. Carbs are not the devil, but we also don't need to be eating massive amounts at the same time. So carbohydrates is really individual specific, but what I would recommend, what you learn from carb cycling is every single day we don't need to have 400 grams of carbohydrates. Based on what you're doing or what you're doing the next day will determine how many carbohydrates you want to eat. But give yourself a fuel source, whether it be fat or carbs. Undulate your carbohydrate intake, undulate your calories, getting in the weeds. But carb cycling essentially is vary your carbohydrates based on your needs. And those are essentially the big mainstream popular diets and how they make you feel better. So pick and choose something from everything. I would actually recommend folks to, if you are somebody who is ambitious and curious and wants to learn what's best for your body or what you might have been missing out on, go paleo for 3 to 4 months. Go keto for 3 to 4 months cautiously. You're probably going to have to go keto at least 6 months for it to really take effect. Try an elimination diet at some point. Throw in some fasting if you don't have any eating disorder in your past. Try undulating your carbohydrates, and hell, if you want to go vegan or vegetarian for a period of time, even if it's just a week, just to see what it's like. And if anything, just make sure you increase your vegetable and fruit intake, or your fibrous fruits, so your berries. Try that out. I am not dogmatic. I have tried every single thing up here outside of full-blown vegan or vegetarian, but I do still, anywhere from 1 to 4 days a month, I have vegetarian days where all I'm eating is healthy fats, veggies, fruit, and a little bit of nuts. So I'm somebody who implements, 1 to 4 days a month of vegetarian days. So again, it's not so much that you found the perfect diet, it's what is that diet, what hole or shortcoming is that diet fixing that's making you feel better now. If you like this video, I'll probably get some hate for this video. But anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, share this video with your friends and family, especially if somebody you know is all of a sudden, oh, I'm on this new diet, it's the best thing in the world, I feel great. Oh, it's you've got to do it, and they're just jamming it down your throat. Share this video with them and check out onerepatatime.net. You can find a lot of free resources. This is how I make a living. We have our own take on nutrition, which implements these 7 things in a hierarchy that could be applied to any sort of popular diet strategy. This is not an end-all be-all. So you can apply our 7 principles to vegan, to keto, to paleo, to an elimination. You could throw in fasting, you could throw in carb cycling or protein cycling, things like that. You can go to any type of popular mainstream diet, or you can follow it on its own as is. Any comments down below, I will check back periodically to answer any of your questions. And other than that, remember, we can do anything we want. 1 day at a time, 1 meal at a time, or 1 diet at a time, even though I hate the word diet. So eating strategy, eating strategy, eating strategy, eating strategy. 1 set at a time, 1 rep at a time, more of 1 rep at a time.net.